we're going to do the same thing we did last time. If we just don't have a lot of questions, we're going to shut it down. So hopefully everyone's good with that. But okay, here they come. All right. Hi, everyone. Letting everyone in from the waiting room. Okay, everyone is in. That was in the waiting room. Welcome. This is office hours for BEAD round 2. So just a reminder, we do not have any presentation, but broadband office staff is on the call to answer questions you have. So you can either raise your hand and ask your question, or you can drop it into the chat and we will read it. We will record this call, and then we'll also record any information given in our FAQ, which is available on our website. So at this time, we'll take questions. So again, raise your hand or drop it in the chat. Go ahead, Craig.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi.
Do you have a link for last week's webinar, office hours, online?
We don't, because there were no questions asked. So I know it wouldn't be helpful to you. We didn't get anything last week. So
Okay, didn't miss much then.
No, you didn't. I mean, you would get a recording of us just kind of sitting here for about 10 minutes.
Can you talk about location challenge process for round 2, or what would go forward as far as challenge process before the final proposal goes out?
Sure. Megan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So there's no actual challenge process. The challenge process, that term, is kind of reserved for what we did last spring. But what we're doing now, and you probably saw the public notice we sent out this morning, is with the BEAD guidelines, both the alternative technology guidelines and the guidance that we have for preparing our final proposal, we have the opportunity to collect additional evidence for locations that may already have existing service. And, it's sort of to capture the things that have happened since the challenge process ended. Because, it's been 6-7 months since we submitted that data to NTIA and got it approved. So networks have been built in that time. We want to be able to capture that and avoid overbuilding. So the information we're collecting now is basically to say, we know there's a new FCC map version out, and if you've reported in that version of the FCC map, we can't just, blanket take those out of the running. We have to collect some extra evidence so that we can be sure that that service actually exists. So basically, we want to know from providers, can you prove that service exists? And if so, then we can incorporate that information into our review and work to avoid overbuilding those areas. Does that answer your question, or is it more specific than that?
It does, with one gap. In the document that was sent out today, there were 2 eligibility requirements for locations. The first was that it be included on the Colorado BEAD eligible location list, which presumably is the 161,000 that was pared down with the ineligible ones removed to around 102,000. And then the second one was have qualifying broadband service from version 5, which is fine. But the gap that I see is that you're taking 2 what aren't challenges but effective feedback forms. One is the unlicensed fixed wireless, and then the second is the reliable broadband service, which is 40, 50, 71, 72. So what it doesn't allow for is for you to, and I'm going to say challenge, but to say that you have service at one of the others that aren't in the 102 that were in the original BEAD list, but you're only allowing us to reply to locations that are in the remaining eligible location list, which is the 102. So what is the mechanism for replying to others that seemingly have been built out already and aren't eligible for pushback and may or may not have gotten a round one award or maybe a negotiation, but may have gotten it and they're ineligible for comment now. So is there a mechanism for that where either they got built out or there was a previous enforceable commitment that's recently registered or now showing up and you shouldn't overbuild them?
Yeah, so the information we're looking for as in the public notice is for that 161,000. So we want to find out, you know, as much as we can about that full 161,000 list. How we are able to treat that information changes based on whether there's a preliminary award. But if we have the information, you know, if we have the information and we have the evidence, that gives us the option to, you know, that gives us options with that location. So I encourage you, if you have service at any of those 161,000 locations and can submit evidence, please do so. And that way the CBO has, you know, everything at our fingertips to work with as we prepare our final proposal and make our decisions.
Okay, so the clarification then is in that first qualification where it says eligible location list, it was the original from last August, not the one that was published as eligible for round two.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Triple check I linked the right one, but I think we did link the full eligible location list in there. So I'll double check that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Megan, I know you're checking on something, but there's another question in the chat that you probably need to cover because it's around the same topic. It says the email regarding new coverage says it has to be included in the FCC Fabric 5. If we've brought new homes online since then, but it wasn't in the last FCC submission, is there any way to have that proven and recorded?
So the guidance from NTIA on that is a little less clear. The easy path forward is that it's reported in Fabric 5. We collect evidence or in the FCC map version 5, then we collect evidence and we should be good to go. If it's not reported in the version 5 FCC map, there is an other category we can use, but I think the burden of proof and scrutiny is a lot higher. So, you know, if you have locations like that, you can send them over to us. It'll just be a little bit more burden of proof. I'll have to get some additional guidance from NTIA on how we handle that. But we do want to make sure that we're being as accurate and efficient as possible. So definitely send that our way, and and we'll see what we can do with it.
Okay, that was David's question. So David, if you have a follow-up, just let us know. Okay, so thank you. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So again, you can raise your hand or you can drop it in there. If we run low on questions or they just stop, we will cut it short. Just by the way, we won't be here for an hour, but all right, Ben, go ahead.
Hey, thanks. And thanks for doing these meetings. I spent last meeting reading the frequently asked questions. So that's why I didn't have any questions. I didn't realize we were up to 15 pages already for round 2. So my question is the agreement template that is posted on the website being updated to be in line with the frequently asked questions?
Allie, Terry, I know you're on and you work on those FAQs.
So you're asking about the model grant agreement template, Ben?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, actually the last meeting I was on, we were just working on it. So if you want to keep an eye out, that should be updated in the next couple of weeks. It just has to go through a couple levels of approval on our end.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Because
So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great question. And we'll make sure we get that in the facts so everybody can see that too.
Okay.
Page 16.
Yeah. Really? Yes. Page 60. All right. Good. So that's good. That I think clears up my main question, which was there was a discrepancy. So and the one I'm looking at in particular in the agreement, if you want to draw your attention, is 10.2.4, where it's talking about I think the frequently asked questions refers to grant amount, and the contract is still saying agreement funds, which doesn't match up.
Is 10.2.4 what grant amount versus agreement funds for what topic? What area
For
is
the
that?
letter of credit.
Yes, I do think we updated that, but thank you. We'll double check.
Okay. All right. Terrific.
Yep, thank you.
And then I was curious, don't have a specific question, but can you just talk to how the reimbursement cycle is anticipated to work for BEAD? I know with the different programs in the past, like some could be submitted monthly or quarterly, and then there were milestones. What is the anticipation for the reimbursement cycle for grants? And I guess I'm asking for round 1, round 2. Together.
I'm happy to take that one unless somebody else wants to. Hearing none. So Ben, this will work the same way that our CPF grant agreements work. So reimbursements will only be eligible for phases that are open. So a grantee, and this will be the same regardless of whether you're round 1 or round 2 grantee, all BEAD grantees will go through the same process, right? So if awarded, a BEAD grantee will request authorization to proceed with a specific phase. Phases can be open concurrently. So you could have, say you have phase 1 is your engineering phase, and phase 2 and engineering and permitting, say, and phase 2 is materials purchase and construction. It could be that you finish all of your engineering, you're waiting for a couple of permits, but you want to start ordering materials. So you could have 2 phases open at one time. Once the phase is open, then you can request for reimbursement either monthly or quarterly, depending on what the individual grantee works out with their grant manager. When they request for reimbursement, the costs are just like any other grant, right? They have to be incurred within the period of performance of the grant. And they have to already have been incurred. Once you send in that request for reimbursement, you'll also send in a progress report. So the progress that you're reporting in your progress report should align with the reimbursement and the receipts that you send in, if you will, for your request for reimbursement. So that's the process. That again, the milestone phase can be a little confusing, but that's how we sort of meter, if you will, progress in billing.
Okay, thanks. And I'm sure there's a lot of applicants on the BEAD that are not participants in the CPF. And so I don't know, they may have the same question.
Yeah, we have some training videos as well, Ben, that goes through that process.
Okay, great. I'll look for those.
We can drop those in the chat when we have a second, Ben. So give us a moment. We'll look for those. All right, so there's another question in the chat that says, can an applicant use the same line of credit for round two if it included a cap amount and some of the prior projects / applications that were included in that capped amount were not selected for preliminary awards or granted? That's from Monica in the chat. So team, who wants to take that one?
Happy also to take that one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I fumbled through that, so you might need to read that.
I'm not seeing anybody come off mute, so hop in if somebody has an answer. But so the surety requirements need to cover all of your total applications, right? So if you have had an application that is deferred, that doesn't necessarily mean it's out of the running. And so just make sure that the letter of credit that you're supplying includes both your round, is sufficient to cover your round two or round one. If you feel like you're getting out of balance, just make sure you're reaching out to your either to your bank or to your surety company if you're going for payment and performance bonds that would include that. The additional applications that you are submitting in round two.
Okay. Monica, hopefully that answers your question. Again, happy to take follow-ups. Okay, we can move on to the next one. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, thanks. So I was curious on the reliable service reported, specifically the wireless, how you guys are planning on reviewing those. In particular, we see one company that had never filed with the FCC for the last 10 years, and then apparently they decided to sell their company. So they put up towers on the FCC and just showed that they cover everything in like a 3-county radius in the mountains, which is physically impossible. And they happen to put it as a licensed by rule to disqualify everyone. And so I'm curious how you guys are going to verify that. And there were a couple applications nearby that somebody was awarded that are now in that territory. So what happens to those applications? How's they get vetted, and how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so the review process will be similar to what we did with the during the challenge process. And again, the burden of proof is on the provider. So if we get evidence that we don't think is sufficient, we'll ask for additional information, which could include speed tests or network maps or something that more sufficiently proves that they have the capacity and ability to serve all of those locations. So we'll do our due diligence. We're not required to take those locations off the map or away from applications if we're not confident that those are served.
Okay, and do you know what the time frame is on that? Because as I mentioned, the company apparently did this in an attempt to sell, and I know the guys that bought their network, and I asked them what they thought of, are you aware of the situation? And they admitted they have zero clue what the network actually looks like. A lot of the towers are old, do not meet the requirements, so I know for sure they don't have the information on hand, and will take them some time to put it together to find out how completely off the market is.
Yeah, so they would have to submit their intent to provide evidence by next Wednesday. There's a 7-day period for that. And they would have to provide the evidence by, I think it's March 14th. So if they don't have sufficient evidence by then we move forward with those as eligible locations.
Okay, so if somebody doesn't contest it the next 5 days, it doesn't matter that it's on the new version of the FCC fabric. It's purely was it on version 3.2 or was it on version 5? And they said that they did cover it and will provide evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially the question is, did it go through our challenge process? And if not, then we need that extra burden of proof. The mere fact that it's reported to the FCC is not proof enough for NTIA to accept that it's served.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, David, the days of putting up a tower and say you cover the entire county, that's not just the case. You got to prove that you can cover it, you know?
That's wonderful to hear. I know the new guys use a much more detailed process where it shows aggregation maps, but when I found out what these other guys did to quickly sell their network, I was a little blown away and furious, to say the
Yeah,
least.
you're bringing back the old rural cellular days for me now, where people just put up a suitcase antenna and sold it as a working network and sold it for millions.
Hey, I lost multiple grants due to that exact situation.
All right, thanks for your question, David. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. So we'll give it another minute or two to see if there are any other questions that come up. Kristen's dropping some valuable resources in the chat too. So if you need anything that we've been referencing, like the FAQ or the trainings or anything, those are in there now. Okay, go ahead, Craig.
Are those locations flagged as under negotiation? Is there a way to tell how under negotiation they are, like where they are in the process or degree of likelihood, or will you update during this round if some are no longer under negotiation and it's been settled?
I can take that, Lauren. We can't really disclose where everyone is in the process for under negotiation because there's, a few applications that are in different stages. So, that would, one of the things we can't do is, make public who's been preliminarily awarded by the NTIA and what status they're in before our final proposal. So we can't really, we're not at the liberty to have that level of transparency right now, but I just want to just let you know that it's something that the NTIA wants us to make sure we follow. So how negotiated they are and how not negotiated are, we can't really communicate that at this time. So I appreciate the question, but we're not at the liberty to disclose who's doing what before our final proposal.
So they do show up as eligible for round two, meaning does that imply that you will take all bids for those under negotiation locations into consideration before deciding on the negotiation itself?
Yes, there's potential for that as well. I mean, we listed that in our guidance. So, those are still eligible because they're not preliminarily awarded or preliminarily partially awarded. There's still more homework that those applicants have to do. So, I mean, to the extent that they are available, yes, they're there, but and I would refer to the website, our mapping website. There's we have the definitions associated with each category on the map. So so that should answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to confirm, I guess, that all fiber product is still considered priority. And then since you no longer have to cover all the BSLs in a project area, typically we don't do wireless, but we can. So I was trying to figure out if there was a reason we should try to cover more homes with wireless on the outskirts where it wouldn't be cost effective to build, or is there not any change to how it's graded or preferred?
I can take this one, Lauren. So, the BEAD criteria is, obviously we have what constitute as priority broadband projects, fiber and other last mile, if you will. So that I would refer to the rubric for what we're prioritizing, David. And as far as whether you submit an application that has fiber or fixed wireless, that's up to you. We really can't advise you how to do that at this point. So, I think the guidance I would offer is, if you're interested in applying, go ahead and apply and read the criteria so that you can score the most points.
Okay, thank you. And I guess on that note, if we were going with a project that was primarily fiber, but there were some addresses we're willing to reach with wireless, should we put those under a high cost setting? I wouldn't want it to not be considered priority because we put wireless for 5 homes on the edge. But I also don't want it to look like the costs are too high because we showed originally the price for fiber on those. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so are you asking me if you should, what are you asking?
Okay, sorry. So I guess I'm trying to figure out A or B here. Either I'm just not going to put those 5 outskirt addresses on the application at all because if we put them as wireless, it would put us as non-priority. Or does it make more sense to put those 5 addresses included with a fiber plan and then on the cost workbook, putting them under high cost and showing what the difference with doing wireless and fiber would be on that?
Yeah, thanks. So you're asking us how to fill out your application right now. And what I want to help you, but I can't tell you what to do in your technology mix in your application. All I would tell you is to follow the application instructions. So if you have high cost locations, we have an option for you to identify those. If it's a hybrid situation, you would put your costs in the spreadsheet, just like you did in round 1. But I can't tell you which BSLs go in which category, or if you should add, the wireless locations to your fiber application. That's solely up to you. So again, I would encourage you to apply and propose what you're thinking you want to do for those BSLs.
Okay, I think I phrased my question poorly, but that answered my question very much. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Again, no additional questions right now, so we'll give it a couple minutes to see if there are any more. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. Although Craig, you came off mute. Do you have something?
Yeah, so maybe it's a follow-on to David's question on the FAQ about what of the round 1 rubric remains. So not an application question, but is the full breadth of round 1 rubric still in place for grading round 2, or does it just come down to let's just figure out however we can and to get to the lowest cost per pass to make the budget work?
What was the question, Craig? Because I had to go let my dog in. Sorry.
Follow on to David's question. What of the round 1 rubric for scoring remains in round 2? Because he raised the question of priority broadband being treated first, but is that out the window in round 2, and we're just looking at cost per location pass for any technology?
So the round 1 scoring criteria is still being used for round 2. So we're not changing the scoring criteria. The difference between round 1 and round 2 were more of, program requirements that, we asked the NTA for waivers, as well as making, improving the efficiencies in our round 2 application. But we did not ask for any programmatic waivers to criteria. So the same rules apply to round 1 as round 2. There's a few nuances. We did update our low cost plan. There was a couple of other things, and I would encourage you to look at the addendum to see those changes. But the criteria, the scoring rubrics are the same. We did not change those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Craig. There is another question in the chat. It says, in addition to the grant guidelines, where can I find more information on follow-up reporting if awarded? Oh, Allie, and you responded, thank you. So Allie said there's a compliance in the compliance resource library. There's a training on that. Allie, do you know which one it is by chance?
Yeah, so I would say sort of two things. And Alex, I love that you're asking this question. So thank you for asking it in advance. It just always makes my shriveled little monitoring heart so happy. So there are a couple of things. One, we don't know 100% what kind of follow-up reporting, what sort of ongoing reporting the NTIA is going to be requesting. But in our compliance resources, on our compliance resources page, we have some general information about reporting for federal grants, both sort of specific reporting and also how you need to be prepared to manage the grant. So what is your federal reimbursement look like? What does financial reporting look like? Those kinds of things. And so it's not necessarily BEAD specific, but it is general to federal grant programs. And then we'll have additional information that'll come out over time.
Thank you.
Allie's favorite questions are the compliance and reporting questions.
I just love that people are asking them.
They're thinking about it. Yep.
And that someone read the grant agreement.
Okay. We'll give it another couple seconds, minutes to see if there's any other questions. I don't see any more in the chat. Go ahead, Craig.
Looks like there's a new NTIA head. So to the degree that we can comment on anything that's not speculative, are there any changes, day one, week one that have been pushed that might materially affect our applications at this point?
No, not at this point. We're just moving forward under the guidance that we have right now. So, and no one has communicated to us if there's any changes coming forward. So, everything's a go. And if there's something that changes, we'll definitely let you know. But we're executing the current guidance.
All right. Thanks, Brandy. All right. Any more questions?
Does that include some of the speculation last week that LEO would receive special dispensation and allow ongoing subsidies for subscription payments to be included in reimbursable costs? Is that just an LEO rumor or LEO dispensation not applicable to other reimbursable costs under BEAD?
Yeah, we really can't offer much on speculation and rumor at this point. We're operating underneath the guidance that was published by the NTIA. So anything outside of that is kind of is a rumor or speculation. So I would just say that anything that we have published online or is the NTIA has published is the law of the land or the policy of the land, and we're tracking any changes that anybody has. So if there's those changes based on conversations that are happening outside of the program, we'll certainly make those and let people know to the extent that the NTIA adopts those policies. So for now, we're not operating on any sort of speculation. We have our guidance from the NTIA.
So for now, under Title II, Part 200 for reimbursable expenses, that subscription payments or subsidies for broadband services are not reimbursable still?
If it's in the guidance, yes.
All right, thanks.
Okay. There's something new in the chat, but I don't think we need to, I don't think that applies to us. Okay, any other questions? Okay. If everyone's asked the question that they have, or there's no other thoughts or comments or discussion to be had, then we can adjourn a little bit early. But thank you everyone for jumping on. This was a good conversation and great questions today. We will release this recording, and then reminder, we'll put all of this information in the FAQ, and we can point you to where we put that in the FAQ so it's easy to find. But last call for questions. Otherwise, we will say thank you and goodbye for today. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.